Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Pregame Network podcast. This is episode 55. I am your gracious host, Dan, joined by my bestest bud, Anthony, and back another week to talk about more video game news and other stuff revolving around video games that we like to talk about. Shut up, it's
Yeah.
our show. So, as per usual, we'll go over what we've been playing this past week, and then we will kind of jump into the news. I'm gonna give you a warning right now, Anthony, that I don't really have like a whole lot of big news stories to talk about this week. There's like there's the normal stuff that I would say in like my domain, and there's one thing that I thought was interesting that I just found today that I want to talk about a little bit. But beyond that, yeah, I don't really have like a ton of stuff. I figured I'd kind of leave that to you, and then I'll jump in with whatever opinions and whatnot that I have.
Mm.
Um, I guess I'll go first as far as the what I've been playing. Not like a terribly long list. I mentioned that I beat Ghost of Tsushima last week, so that's cool. Um, I've been playing a little bit more of Deep Rock Galactic Survivor. Been putzing around in Borderlands 3 for a little bit, just because I wouldn't say that I'm like hyped or anything from Borderlands 4, but I do like the IP, so I wanted to scratch that itch, especially after the Borderlands 4 State of Play gameplay reveal dropped. Aside from that, I dipped a little bit of a toe back into Destiny, but it wasn't like I put like a couple things here and there,
Yeah,
not like
nothing substantial.
yeah, nothing substantial. I've been getting a lot more into Darktide again. I've been going like I have my peaks and my valleys with Darktide. It's such a fun game, and I find myself keep on coming back to it. I have 230 hours in Darktide already.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I always kind of find my way back to that game. They keep on updating it, so I'm gonna keep on coming back.
There you go.
And I have started to replay Titanfall 2 campaign. After our conversation about Titanfall, or I guess my rant about Titanfall last week, I just had to go back and play it. The multiplayer is completely dead. I don't even know if the North Star client is still up and running. I would imagine there's probably a handful of people still playing it just because there's nothing quite like Titanfall 2 multiplayer or Titanfall multiplayer full stop. But um, I just had to go back and really, stab that itch instead of scratch it. Um, oh God, it's so fucking good. The Titanfall 2 campaign is probably in my top three FPS campaigns of all time. Um, I don't know what I see. Like this is when I say like top three, I don't know what would be first place. I think top three is just kind of like a tie for me. Um, not to go off on a tangent, but
All right.
I'm going to a little bit. I think not necessarily in this order, but my top three FPS campaigns would probably be. Uh, I'm gonna rope Modern Warfare 1 and 2 into the same experience, just
That's fair.
because they really do kind of pick up. Modern Warfare 2 picks up enough of where 1 left off, where like you could play through all of 1 and 2, and it feels like a complete package.
Yeah.
So those two games I'm gonna tie in bundle into one, and that is definitely in the top three. Titanfall 2, obviously, and then the other one I would probably say is Black. You
Hmm.
remember that game?
Yeah, I remember it, and also I just want to point out that like a while ago, like
Mm.
just on a whim, I tried it and I was playing it, and I told you about it, and you responded to me as if I had like five heads, like as if I,
Really?
yeah, like I said, oh, I played Black, that game you like. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like,
You,
okay.
have you never played it before?
At that point, I hadn't, and I had given it a shot. Like I'd seen you play it at one point on, way back
How
when it
long
was
ago?
still new. Um, couple years, few years.
Oh, really?
It was when the Xbox original started doing, backwards compatibility, and
Oh,
I'm just like, oh, Dan's always talked about this. I remember watching him play this when we were younger, and then I played it a little bit. I don't think I ended up beating it, but I went to talk to you about it. I was like, oh, I tried Black, and you responded like if there were pod people and this was a test, you would have failed it. Like I would have been like that's how you responded to it, with such indifference and like borderline annoyance. But yeah,
I'm
I know you appreciate play.
I'm shocked at my past self, honestly. And like the Black campaign, you weren't playing through it for the story. That was not it was barely a story. That game made the weapons and the set pieces the star of the show, and that's what made it so cool. Like I don't really remember another game that really glorified the guns as much as Black did. Like on the back, I still own my original copy. It's sitting on a bookshelf at home.
Nice.
Yeah, and on the back of the case, it's like there's like 5 rules of the Black, like the pillars of the game design. It was all about the guns. Like the one that I remember the most is every bullet is your baby, and just the way that like in the main menu, it was all the different kinds of weapons that you would get in the game just firing. Like there was a set of arms that would load the weapon, like rack it, and then shoot it, and it would just cycle through the different weapons that you would get in the game in the main menu, and it was really just all about the weapons. So that that game probably kickstarted my first person shooter like obsession way back when that game came out. It was probably like 2003 or something like that, 2004 maybe. But yeah, Black was awesome. So yeah, Black, Modern Warfare 1 and 2, and the Titanfall 2 campaigns. Those are my top 3 FPS experiences. And I might be forgetting 1 or 2, but at least like right off the top of my head, those are the ones that really stick out to me. So anyway, moral of the story, I went back and I've been replaying the Titanfall 2 campaign, and it fills me with such like a good feeling, but at the same time, it really fills me with like a whole bunch of melancholy, because that could have been such a phenomenal franchise, and yeah, maybe would have gotten ruined over the course of however many years. I think I actually went through the same rant last week, so I'm just gonna stop this here. But yeah, Titanfall is fucking incredible, and they need to stop being cowards and make a Titanfall free. But yeah, that is what I've been playing this week.
Neat. I mean, that's not a terrible selection. You know, the way you led into it, you were kind of making it feel like you hadn't been playing much. But no, that's a good selection.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have you been up to?
So I played a few different things. I went back and I did. I was doing a playthrough of Resident Evil Remake, the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, because basically I was trying to do like just like to prove a point. Like I was talking with Nick, Luke, and Harrison at the time. I'm like, oh yeah, I could do this in like, you know, in my prime, I could beat this in under 2 hours. You know, this should be a quick thing, and it's very, very quickly spun out of control. And I think we're not done with it, but we're at like 4 hours in. So I played a little bit of that whenever everybody's available. I played have you ever heard of Captain Blood?
It rings a little bit of a bell, but I couldn't pick it out of the lineup if you asked me to.
I haven't played the full game yet, but I played the demo for it. It's this game that got knocked into development hell back in like 2013, around there, like the early 2010s, right? And it got picked up again like a couple months ago, and they just released it. And it is a time capsule of a game. It is literally the original God of War formula, but with pirates.
Oh.
So it's like, you know, it's fixed camera, kind of more hack and slash, less action, executions, quick time events, things like that. It's pretty fun, if a little unforgiving, action game, to the point where I might, you know, consider finding the full version and playing it to completion. I gotta say, it was charming to play a game like this, because it is very much of the time that it was originally being developed, like a decade ago, right? So there's a lot of details and stuff like that you wouldn't expect. It looks nicer. It's got style to it. It's just, I don't know, like, it's a time capsule. It's almost like the same way we described Space Marine 2, like it's a game you don't see made anymore. Captain Blood is much the same, only difference being it came from that time, right?
Right.
And so we'll see if I end up playing the full version. Other than that, I played. You ever hear of Blueprints?
Yes, I know what it is.
Yeah, it's like a darling from this year. It's like a sleeper hit or something. It's
Yeah,
interesting.
it's not. I've seen some gameplay. It's not my thing at all, but I
It's
know what it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like it's not something I'm sitting here going, oh, you know, it's bad, don't play it. It's definitely not as good as people are saying. It's fine for what it is. It's basically a roguelike puzzle game where like the whole point is like you gotta make it deep inside this mansion and the rooms change every day, so you're going up to the door, picking a room at random and hoping and like each room that you enter has different pros and cons and angles that it goes through the house. And as you go along, there's like costs for each room and, you know, keys to unlock doors. And if you don't like have the right resources, you'll eventually lock yourself out and you'll need to start over the next day with certain upgrades, right? It's a roguelike. I mean, there's only so much you can say about it. I don't hate it. It's got some nice little music. It's definitely, like I said, not as good as everybody's saying, but I'll probably end up beating that just because we ended up doing it for the channel. So,
Right.
well, we'll see what goes with that. And then other than that, the only other thing I really played is Expedition 33, Oblivion, and I played Fragpunk with you right before
Yeah.
we did this, and Street Fighter obviously too. But yeah, we played some Fragpunk. That was interesting.
Yeah, we could definitely talk about that a little bit since we
Yeah.
both have played it now and can give. I mean, I wouldn't even say I have like a full, well-rounded opinion because I have not played enough of it to have a full, well-rounded opinion. But I
Hmm.
have my first impressions, and I mean, since you're, since I've played it before you,
Hmm.
by a couple months, how about you tell me what you thought, since like you were really just fresh off of it, and
Yeah.
then I'll give you my opinion.
Yeah, I would just say it's a serviceable shooter. It's satisfying enough to play. I think the movement is very restrained. Like there's not a lot of crazy movement, and it doesn't need it, but it was noticeable. It's definitely like the way that Fragpunk moves and feels. Kind of feels like they were in development right as people were bitching about how everything was getting too twitchy and jumpy. It definitely feels like a reaction to that. Other than that, it kind of feels like X-Defined in a lot of ways. I think I mentioned,
Yeah.
where it's just like it's the speed and the pace feels a little slow, a little sluggish, but the cards and stuff that you know the key point of the game adds enough little variety. I didn't get a chance to really play around too much with the different cards and like the you know how when you play the deathmatch mode or you play the kill confirm mode, you have a lot more control over what cards you're going into. You know when you're not playing the
Right.
main
Because
mode.
playing the main mode, you have to vote on what cards you want to use
Yes,
with your whole team. That really
exactly.
changed up the formula.
Yeah, I think if we were to play more of it, you know, if we ever did, one of the things that would take the most getting used to is that key part of the game is learning about the different cards and kind of understanding and getting a feel for them. But other than that, it's just it's I keep thinking of X Defiant because it's really just a game like that where it's just it's a kind of a smaller shooter, a bit more compact, and it's just it feels good in the places it needs to, but it's not exceptional, I guess. You know.
Well, I mean, I'm sure, I've said this during our play session before, but you remember back in Titanfall 1, not to bring it back to Titanfall, but it's just like a direct comparison,
Mm.
uh, where you had like the single-use burn cards each life.
Yes. Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, back when Titanfall 1 was in its heyday, you got to choose three different cards to pick upon each life that would give you various bonuses like increased weapon damage or faster movement speed or um, God, it's escaping me. Whatever. It like it gave you different bonuses per life. It feels like the developers of Fragpunk saw that and decided to make an entire game around it with its own very flamboyant visual flair. But I mean, I would never pick it up and play it just by myself. There are other shooters that I would rather play. I actually said this to you before. It the game plays well enough that like I wished I was rather playing a COD of my choice
Hmm.
than Fragpunk. And like I guess that's both a compliment and a not an insult, but like a detractor. Um, you know, it it feels like just slightly above free to play slop. So I don't know. That's definitely not a compliment, but it's too just meh. Like there's nothing that really sets it apart, in my opinion.
I feel like we're both on opposite sides of the line that is apathy, where it's just like, hey, it's okay for what it is, and you're just like, it's okay for what it is.
Yeah,
You know?
pretty much. Because like, I play a lot more shooters than you do. So when I play a shooter that like doesn't really do anything crazy and it it just it like I said, it feels slightly above slop. That like I'm not only am I not impressed, I'm just like I would just rather be playing a shooter that I would rather play. Like, it's not um, um yeah, I don't know. I'm never gonna go back to it by myself. On the very off chance that anybody we know wants to go and try it, sure, I'll install it because it's free to play. But beyond that, I've got no purpose for that game. Even if people like it, then great, more power to you.
Mm.
But it's just not. There are plenty of other shooters that I would rather play than Fragpunk. So there is that. Um, was that everything for your
Yeah, that's
playset?
everything I've been playing, and I don't really have much else to say about Fragpunk. It's just, what is there to say about something you're mostly apathetic about?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I guess we could kind of jump into the
Yeah.
news now. Did we talk about the GTA trailer? The review? I think we did.
I
Did,
think
right?
we missed it by a day. We talked about Grand Theft Auto getting delayed,
But then the
and
trailer
then
came out like the next day.
yes, exactly.
So, do you have any overwhelming thoughts about the second trailer for GTA 6?
I mean, my opinion is just about the same. Like, you kind of know what you're getting into. It looks. I'm so conflicted about how it looks because I've had my kind of gripes about um the art style they go for and how it's I've kind of already said that Grand Theft Auto 6 it looks dated out of the gate, and not in a like, oh, this looks bad. I just mean like the technology, like the amount of time it takes for this game to come out versus the amount of how what we're seeing in trailers. Like, people are already comparing like older trailers to newer trailers and noticing, now that we're moving into the territory of in-game cutscenes, which is what Grand Theft Auto has been doing for a long time. We are kind of seeing that it's not quite up to the standards shown by the initial cinematic trailers or just the initial trailer in general. And I don't know. I don't have too much to say about it. The protagonists look likable. Some of the voices seem nice. I'm not something like a Grand Theft Auto. I need to see like chunks of the game proper in a way that I really won't see until it's out.
Right.
Because these games, they're not RPGs, but they are still pretty dense. They are very cinematic focused, and I worry that its edge has been dulled too considerably by the by what's been going on in Rockstar in recent years. And like, that's one thing to say and to focus on, but it's like, if I look at Grand Theft Auto 4, 5, and 6 all next to each other, right? The trailers and like things they focused on, very strong story and cinematic presence, right? Because that's what they highlight, and then underneath it, when you get into the game, that's where you start getting all like the humor and the satire and the things like that. Like, it's something they don't really focus on in these trailers. They tease it a little bit, and then eventually when you're playing the game, you get the full Grand Theft Auto experience, and there's moments that are silly and zany and you laugh, but it's all kind of taken seriously in universe and shit like that. That's the kind of stuff I like. But I have a feeling that that part of the experience, when it gets down to it, is not going to be as strong as 5, or definitely not going to be as strong as 4, I don't think. And that's what I worry about with the Grand Theft Auto, which is something you unfortunately don't really see in the trailer. I will say that that it looks nice, and it seems to flow nice, and like I said, the protagonists do look likable, but it's just, until we start seeing more of the full picture, I can't really say with certainty what my thoughts are on it,
Yeah. Well, when I watched the trailer, I was actually kind of surprised by how I hesitate to use the term like good, like overall.
Hmm.
Um, but I thought it looked pretty good. As far as like a visual standpoint goes, it still looked very GTA as far as like
Hmm.
how they animate the world and the art direction and the color palette and all that. I think it is a little bit more colorful just because it's taking place in Vice City this
Hmm.
year or this game. Because definitely not this year. It's not like it comes out every fucking year. Um, so I do like the characters right off the bat. I think that the setup for the story they have is pretty good. I don't know if you've dug into like the synopsis of the
It
story
it's
so
supposed to
far,
be
but
like a Bonnie and Clyde kind of thing, right?
yeah, yeah, I like that. Like that is
Listen,
something that's like a personal preference for me.
of all my like hesitancies and stuff like that, I don't take issue with the raw story angle, like the main core story. I think it's fine. I think it's interesting. I think it's separate enough from like, Five's story of, retired
I think I think
retired
every
bank robbers and shit.
I
And
think every GTA like starting from 3 had a pretty good
no, yeah.
not only story but like each main protagonist was or protagonists were very different from every other version of GTA, and
Yes.
that's
And
a
that
really good thing to do with a franchise like this.
Yeah, and I think 6 is poised to, continue that trend. I do think that, what you said is true. 3 to Vice City to San Andreas to 4 to 5, there are interesting hooks there that are unique to each of them.
Yeah.
3 is a little. I will say that 3 is a bit. When you really look at it, it is kind of similar to 5, but that's just because of the bare bone natures of it. But I get what you're saying, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
Where it's like the core story hooks, I think are going to be solid. I think
I mean, I
that
think it's
part's
going
not
to
going to
be
be an
just
issue.
like every other GTA game, but better. And
Hmm.
like that's fine. Like this, everyone knows what Grand Theft Auto is. Everyone knows what they're getting into with a game like this. But I just think with GTA 6, it's going to be bigger and better. I don't think it's going to do anything terribly different. Not in the same way that they had 3 playable protagonists in GTA 5, as opposed to every other version of the game. That was something that was like different enough that um, I think set itself apart from the rest of the GTA lineup. Now I don't know if it's going to be that way in 6, where you can play as either um, each member of this relationship, but in GTA 5, you had it was Franklin, Trevor, and Michael, right? Those are the
Yeah.
3 characters.
Yep.
Yeah. And then based on your choices in the story, not no, but based on like I guess how you felt about the characters, you get to decide the ending.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. I think the game is going to sell like crazy. Everybody knows that.
Mhm.
And I think it'll be like probably at the very least a solid 8. I mean, people are probably going to review it and give it 9s or 10s across the board if I had to guess, but
Mhm.
I think that it just looks like a bigger, better GTA game, and that's fine. That's exactly what it needs to be. Um, so the delay is probably a good thing. The trailer was it was fine. Like it was exactly what the community needed after a delay announcement. So whatever. We have another year to wait,
Yeah.
and I'm not losing any sleep over it. So, uh, yeah, I guess that's enough talk about GTA.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some stuff to talk about, but if you wanna go into something, then you're more than welcome
Yeah.
to.
I mean, the only thing I would really say, it's less of a singular news story and more just like a kind of state of things. Right now, Evo Japan is going on. I'm sure I remember I gave you the whole rundown that one week about Evo and what it is, right? Massive fighting game tournament.
Yeah, no, I know what
Um,
Evo is.
yeah, and over the years they've opened. I think I mentioned it then too, but they've opened. There's one in Europe, there's one in Japan, and so Evo Japan's been going on. And I mean, whenever that happens, I was kind of talking to Harrison about this before. I don't really go looking at the community anymore and the events because it's all kind of just like upsetting and lower quality than it used to be. But shit pops up in my feed and I see a lot about it, right? And when Evo's going on, regardless of which one it is, that flux kind of increases. You get some more of that, and I'm just like the first thing I want to say is like it's getting more common to see technical issues at these events, I've noticed.
Okay.
Like they're running PlayStation 5. What?
Can't say that I'm shocked.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of two things. One is as these events move from grassroots to more corporate run things, you lose a lot of those like hands-on guys. You know, the guys that, you know, run from tourney to tourney, they don't play but they make sure everything runs smooth, you know, like roadies almost, right? And like I'm just like, I have a feeling a lot of those guys aren't around anymore, or they're retiring, or they aren't necessarily in this corporate space, you know, globally, you know. So there was a lot of issues of PlayStation 5s either overheating because they're running all day and newer hardware just isn't built for that for some fucking reason. Like people had their adapters because a lot of these people use different controllers. Like then they got to plug in manually to the PlayStation. Like their adapters were like melting. That was like a common thing to the point where it happened at like grand finals in certain games.
How much
I know.
power could be going through an adapter that could cause it to melt?
There are so many small issues that are just not accounted for when you're not thinking about them. Like, oh, if we use this console all day, you know, and we move it around, or it's just sitting here on, what's the temperature going to be like? Apparently, at certain points, power at the venue fluctuated a little bit. Not enough to cause like brownouts, but enough to disconnect controllers mid-set. It's just like there was a lot of things that just weren't accounted for, and that's just the event in general, because I saw a lot of the gameplay, and it's just like the same shit that I told you last time, where it's like the competition just isn't as fierce. Like the numbers of entrants are going up, but the competition quality is just going down, and that trend kind of continued here. It's not until like you see like a guy that's been playing for 20 years that you see some gameplay, and even then, because he's playing worse off games than before, it doesn't look nearly as good. I'm not gonna say it was all nonsense. In fact, it's still going on right now. There might be some good sets that I'm missing, but yeah, it was kind of disappointing overall. And it's obviously it's got that veneer of like different influencers walking around just talking about how great it is and how the history is just really here, and I'm just like, bro, nobody gives a shit, because I'm seeing like pictures of the event, you know, not the catered pictures from these like influencers who are talking about how great it is, where it's just like empty seats, people looking at their phones, technical issues, you know, you've got that sketchy shit on the side, you know, less in Japan because like they have a certain decorum and these guys can't fly out, but you know, you have people talking about recent tournaments where like, you know, there were orgies again and just hookups and meetups, and it's just like, bro, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like these tournaments, like this is like the second biggest tournament of the year, you know, because Evo in the US still is, but there's still so much baggage around this community. It's crazy. But then you get down to the games themselves, and I kind of, you know, now I'm taking stock of the games because, you know, you have Capcom and Street Fighter, you have Namco and Tekken, you have Arc System Works and Guilty Gear, you have SNK and Fatal Fury, and it's just like, what are they doing? You know, where are they going? You know, what's going on with them? And I look, Street Fighter has kind of adapted this very safe balancing strategy, which I've probably mentioned before on here, where they do one character every 4 months, and they do like one major balance update a year, maybe two, right? They approach it very safe. And, you know, so they're in the clear. Street Fighter and Capcom get a lot of gripes, but they're fine. They're doing okay, right? We'll see what happens in a month when the last character of year 2 comes out and they drop a massive balance patch, but for now they're doing okay. You have Tekken and Namco and Tekken, currently experiencing what is considered the worst balance state in the franchise's modern competitive life. Like, they dropped this balance update, and it's like there are chip damage kills, aggression, loops, glitches, all this terrible stuff. Apparently, it's all because like Tekken's going through this transitionary period where like a new team is stepping up, trying to make adjustments, right? And I don't know if this has been confirmed yet. There's rumors floating around about it, and like the lead guy in Tekken, Harada, who I've mentioned before, the way he worded his responses, because he spends all day on Twitter, of course, it's implied that most of those guys got fired, and now it's like the guys that were handling the balance for Tekken 7 are back in play, and they're going to be playing catch-up for like the next 6 months or so, right? And on top of that, while this whole nonsense is going on with the bad balance, their big announcement, like at this event, was a character nobody fucking asked for that's been shoehorned since the last character. And I watched the fucking the announcement, right? And and it's just like there's only like 20 people, maybe 30 tops, sitting in like the rows of chairs. There's a bunch of empty seats and nobody's cheering or clapping. It's just like very polite applause for this. I'm just like, all right, Tekken's in a bad way. It's to the point where Tom, my good old buddy Tom, who loves Tekken, it's his favorite series, has been doom posting about it and messaging me all night about the terrible state of the game and how it's like the state is so terrible he feels as if he's lost a family member.
Oh boy.
So Tekken's in a bit of a bad state, but you know who's in a worse state right now?
Yep.
Arc System Works and Guilty Gear. I've talked a great deal about how their latest game, Guilty Gear Strive, is kind of just like a death knell for like the series identity, unless they really, you know, take some kind of turn in the future, which they're not going to. They had one of the most major data breaches I've seen a company experience in a long time. Like the earliest known build of the game leaked. The second earliest known build of the game leaked. The current build of the game leaked. And what I mean by that is the current in development build. And to kind of give you an idea, Dan, of what I'm just trying to spell it out here, there's a character for that game coming out in 2 weeks, right? You can play this character now for free just by going online and downloading this build, as well as the character that's coming after her that's not out for another like 2 months. Like, that's how severe of a leak of this game happened. And
That've got to be a currently employed dev. It would have to be.
well, my understanding is that there's a guy on the inside, and also because their security is shit and their infrastructure shit, they got hacked. Dan, that's not even the worst part of it. 2 different versions of the source code for this game leaked. 2 different versions, which means now, like, it is so bad that if you were so inclined, and I've done this already, if you were so inclined, Dan, you could download the game, just load it into Unreal, and compile your own version of the game to distribute to whoever you wanted to.
Oh,
Like,
Jesus.
it is that bad. On top of that, they also like I've downloaded this and I've looked through it. It's like I have a game that isn't even announced yet that's been in development for like a year we're not going to see official word on for at least another year and a half on my computer. I see employee resumes, all this shit, massive data breach, and that's what they're dealing with.
That one's getting fired.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know who you really fire in this case, because like it's just like a bunch of inept people who've been with the company for a while at like a administrative level and a bunch of artists beneath them. That company is run so shittily. It's unbelievable. But and then lastly, you have SNK and Fatal Fury, which I mean, I think this new Fatal Fury game plays very well, and I was a big fan of the game it's a sequel to. I don't think it got nearly what it needed to. Like, the Saudis are involved, you know, they own like a stakeholder share in that. Like they pretty much own the company. They put a shit ton of money into it. They hired real life celebrities to put them into the game, like some random soccer player and some fucking DJ from Europe are playable in the game. They put millions into the marketing of this game. They just opened a tournament series that has a prize pool of like 2.5 million. They advertised using, you know, random pop stars of the now, the biggest streamers out there, and the game, it barely moved the fucking needle, Dan. Like it sold. Like, if you'd asked me a year ago before all this shit, like, oh, Fatal Fury, niche game series, what's going to happen with it? I would have said, like, oh, it's going to sell reasonably well, you know, kind of on the lower end, and it's going to have a very die-hard player base. They threw all this marketing and money at it, and it barely shifted the fucking needle. So I don't know what's going to happen, like, after investing that much money into the marketing and not moving anything at all, you know? So it's just like, fighting games are in just such a shitty spot right now. I really just don't know how else to really put it. Like, everybody is either, you know, the worst balancing ever, not selling enough units, getting massive data leaks, or just playing it safe and coasting. Like, it's just, and everybody just likes to pretend it's okay, but it's just like anyone who looks can just see just like how bad of a situation it is for all these companies, really. It's why most of them, I think, are looking to develop like side games. You know, they like Capcom, they do more than fighters. Namco, they do more than fighters. Like, they make a shit ton of money on the back end with Namco. SNK's working on action RPGs. It's just like, it's almost like these companies knew this kind of stuff was coming, and it's just an afterthought to them. You know,
Every week there seems to be some new bullshit going on in the fighting game scene.
Yeah, the genre and community.
You, my friend, are cursed with knowledge.
Yeah, it's just it's shit. It's not. We're not in a good place.
Oh God, I'm sorry. I wish I had something to contribute. I just know nothing about it.
That's perfectly fine. That's just me giving my little roundup of what's going on with the fighting games at the moment. But
yeah. Well, I'm sorry about your troubles, friend.
Thank you. I'll be fine. I'll be playing Street Fighter and Guilty Gear and all the older stuff with Harrison on the side, so I'll live.
Yeah. All right. Well, since you just talked about everything in your wheelhouse, I'm gonna switch gears and talk about Destiny a little bit here. Now, I kind of got into the whole Edge of Fate expansion deep dive last week, right?
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
No, actually, that's another thing we just missed by day. You were getting us ready for the potential announcement, which was right around the corner. Like, it happened the day after. You basically said they're prepped for something new, but we didn't know yet at that time.
Right. Okay, so the live stream happened, and it's been almost a week already.
Yes.
They announced basically most of what they are bringing to the game. I mean, there's always some secret stuff. That's just how Bungie plays it. So I won't really bore you with the details. Like, we're getting a new destination, and this is technically the start of a new quote-unquote saga, in the same way that the last 10 years of Destiny were like the Light and Darkness saga. They're calling this the Fate saga. I don't really know where the story is going because the expansion isn't out yet, but what I will say is that they seem to be refining the game overall, and Bungie has a I wouldn't say a habit, but they have a track record of Lightfall was probably the biggest example of this, because Lightfall came out and everybody hated it, and everyone hated it because the story was basically non-existent and the characters that they introduced were awful. But looking back on it now, a couple years later, they put in a lot of stuff on like the infrastructure and mechanical level to the game that really made Destiny a lot more. I don't want to use the word accessible, but it feels like more and more of like a action shooter MMO with actual build crafting and strategy to your loadout than ever before, like since Lightfall. And now with the Edge of Fate, they announced their new Armor 3.0 system, which really is going to change the game forever going forward. And I'm saying this in a positive sense, because up until now, if you got like a really good, well-rolled armor set that had all the stats exactly where you wanted it, you had no reason to go out and grind other armor pieces. There was just it was once you had what you were looking for, then you could stop getting armor. And I was a huge offender of this, because like I would get really good rolled armor, and then I would go through a raid and get other really good rolled armor, but I didn't need it because I already had something. I would just delete it. It wouldn't have any bearing on me playing the game going forward. With Armor 3.0, they're removing a bunch of these stat penalties, not penalties, but they're moving like hard caps from so there are different tiers in the different stats, and there's 6 stats in total. So like it used to be discipline gave you your grenade. Like that was the stat that controlled your grenade cooldown rate. Every 10 levels, or every 10 points was a different tier. So like Points 1 through 10 were tier 1. Points 11 through 20 were tier 2, and so on and so forth. But there were ways to min-max your armor so that you can get like 120 points into discipline. But once you crossed the 100 threshold or the tier 10, there were no benefits going forward. Like there was
It's
no
basically
point
like
in you.
a soft cap.
Yeah, exactly. So they're getting rid of that. So now if you spec into a certain stat, then that actually affects the cooldown rate of whatever that stat controls. And Destiny kind of played around with armor sets for a while, but they never introduced anything that was substantial. They are now bringing that to the game in the Edge of Fate, which is going to be huge because depending on the content that you're tackling, you're going to need different bonuses in different areas. So now you have a purpose to have more than one set of armor. And I'm giving you all this context because it adds another dimension to the game, and they're doing the same thing with weapons. Now, like they definitely had more of a fleshed out weapon system than armor system for years. But now they're really taking it to the next level. They're bringing everything in line together, which I think is really, really good. Now, obviously, we don't know what the expansion is going to be like, if it's going to be good or bad or whatever. But from everything that they've showed off, like everything under the hood is looking really, really good, especially for an existing Destiny veteran like myself. So I walked away from the stream with a pretty positive sentiment, not as positive as like the Witch Queen reveal. Like that was game changing, but because of the fact that the story implications were huge. Like we were getting weapon crafting that was massive, that changed the game like drastically. This is not going to be that drastic, but it's still going to be big enough where people are going to take notice. So I think it was good overall. Now, so that's the Edge of Fate. Now they also announced the expansion beyond that, which is called Renegades, which they pretty much. So the internet took it as if it was a Star Wars themed expansion, and the fan base is like split down the middle and divided on this. And according to Bungie, everything is happening in canon. It's not like you're going to go to Tatooine and go to Jabba's palace or anything like that. They are claiming that it is like very heavily inspired by the Star Wars universe, which in turn has been an inspiration for the Destiny universe like since the beginning. So they say. But I saw this at first and like I didn't know how to feel about it because, as you know, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have a big Star Wars tattoo on my leg. Like I love Star Wars. But this felt dirty. Like the best way I can describe it, because the Bungie that is developing Destiny now is not the same Bungie that created the Destiny franchise when I started playing it. So the goals and the overall objectives are definitely different with like modern era Bungie. And they've added so many different crossover events and like armor skins that you can buy, to the point where like people are making the argument now that it's basically becoming Fortnite-ifized. Fortnite-ifized? Yeah, Fortnite-ifized. Because like I have a Mass Effect skin for each one of my characters. That is the only skin that I spent money on all three classes. Mm-hmm. They have Mass Effect, they have The Witcher, they have Assassin's Creed. Now they're going on their second Star Wars armor set. Like there's all these different things that people still spend the fucking money on it, but they bitch and moan about it at the same time. So I need to see more of what this Renegades expansion is going to be before I really make a definitive line in the sand and say, hey, this is trash, or okay, this looks really cool. So that being said, I'm more excited for the Edge of Fate expansion than I was prior to the live stream because of the changes they are making to the game, like mechanically, and how everything functions together, the way you interface with your armor and weapons and gear. I think that's all really, really good, and it's gonna breathe good life into the game. So as far as like what I think about the expansion and the announcements, like there's that. Now, switching gears from that to Marathon, it's not like I don't have any Marathon news. It's just I saw an article that kind of perfectly summed up my feelings on Marathon, and I couldn't really put my finger on it until I saw the headline. And this is from Destructoid, and the headline reads, "My only interest in Marathon was as a Bungie fan. Now I'd rather just play The Edge of Fate." And like I couldn't put my finger on it before because I was pretty interested in Marathon when they announced it up until I saw how the game plays. And I kept on watching gameplay just to be because I like extraction shooters.
Mhm.
But I was never like, oh, this looks awesome. I never once had that thought. I always was like, okay, maybe the hook is coming. It never hooked me. And then I see this headline from Destructoid. I'm like, motherfucker, this is why I'm paying so much attention, because I'm a Bungie fan first, and I've been playing Destiny for so long that I'm just morbidly curious on what Bungie's like new quote unquote original project is. And now that I finally was able to like realize why I'm paying so much attention to it, now I just don't even care. I am, especially since they revealed the Edge of Fate expansion. Now I'm just like, okay, it's just another game. It might as well not even be Bungie. Yeah, so like I'm kind of done paying attention to Marathon at this point. As far as extraction shooters go, Arc Raiders looks way better and way more put together and a way more competent product all around.
Yeah.
And it was just so funny because like the Marathon reveal and the alpha happened within a month, right? And then just after that, Arc Raiders came out with their technical test 2 and just completely ate Bungie's lunch to the point where like nobody is looking forward to Marathon anymore, especially when Arc Raiders is what it is. So I just don't even care about Marathon anymore. And I guess that's my long-winded rant of you had the fighting game thing. This is what's going on in my world.
Yeah, you're not interested anymore in Marathon, just like me and everyone else.
Yeah, well, I was interested because Bungie's making it. Like it should be. I should be at least a little bit into it. No, not really. So that ship is come and gone, and you know, fucking whatever. So yeah. Anyway, I will shut up Destiny now. If you got something, then please take your turn. Because I got like, what is it? One thing that I think is like pretty noteworthy for the games that I pay attention to, and then one thing that's like semi-noteworthy that I will also get into. So please, talk about something else.
Well, I mentioned I linked this to you at a certain point, where I basically said, or I linked an article where the CEO of Level 5. Do you know who Level 5 is?
Pal World?
No, that's Pocket Pair. Level
Right.
5 they've been around for a while. They're most known for the Professor Layton games. I know them from... Yeah, if you know Professor Layton, then you know the company. One of my favorites from them was the Dark Cloud games, but they haven't touched that franchise in fucking forever. But the CEO, and the headline's kind of misleading because the headline was like, video games are being made 80 to 90% by AI. And basically, my understanding, I didn't see the full conference, but he was speaking at a conference where he was basically saying that like the human element needs to shine through in the development process, which I agree with, and like the rest of it is being handled by AI. And it's just one of those situations where I took another look at the topic as a whole, because I get frustrated with it. Not in the same way that everybody else does, because everybody has this kind of extreme, you got to use it, it's the future position, or can't use it, it will tarnish the product position, right? And I'm just like, how about we use it right? Because like I look at the different aspects of making a video game, which, you know, it's almost a culmination of different pieces of art to create more art, and it's just like, what could machine learning do for this? Like, how much of this should be taken up by, you know, AI tools and machine learning tools and stuff like that, right? And I'm just like, the base ideas, gameplay ideas, concept art, final art should all be done by humans. You know, that's my opinion. Story too. Like, you really shouldn't be writing story with AI, but like, certain aspects of it could be completely handled or automated by these, or like have teams that handle this like shrunk down by like 90%. And that's like troubleshooting, bug fixing, fine tuning, looking for errors in writing, you know, wow, why am I blanking on this? What is that called? Proofreading, yes. And my favorite, translating. All of that stuff should be like that should be like something that like just AI wipes out entire sectors of. I don't think the creative process should ever be meddled with, but what these companies want to do is hire a bunch of guys, like maybe a third of what they're hiring for outsourced labor that they do now. And they want these guys to just walk up to the machine models and input prompts until a finished product comes out. Like an advanced version of that monkey typewriter fallacy. You ever hear that one? Yeah. It's actually funny about that. So
monkeys in front of a typewriter, one of them will eventually write a masterpiece.
Yeah, that one specific one. I forget which Shakespeare it was, but the funny thing is, like, some scientist came out and was like, actually, the amount of time it would take that species would go extinct before they were able to. And I was like, shut up, nerd. Loser. But yeah, what we really need to be looking for is a way to use these tools to fine-tune human creation, uplifting in some areas, creating in others, and making it so these core creative forces and potential new creators rise up. You know, there's going to be some gray areas. Like I said, the part of localization I don't always talk about is, you know, I rant a lot about localization. Obviously, I've ranted plenty of times. But the part I don't always talk about is the dubbing part of it, like with voice actors and shit, right? I've seen fan-made redubs for, like, anime and video games where they take the Japanese voices, feed them to an AI, and then churn out English dubs faithfully translated with the exact same voice actor. And I'll be honest, the dubbing industry, particularly in the United States, is filled with terrible people that I would prefer to say to see jobless. But I find it hard to condemn that entire sector to AI. You know, that's tricky. That's tricky for me. I'd rather see an expanded and cleaned up voice acting industry than that being replaced by AI. So that's kind of a gray area for me. But this brings me along to my, you know, my essentially my core view on this is that with AI, a lot of companies are going to be trying to push it where it's just like, just make a game with AI, just from top to bottom. And I don't see that. I want to see new tools to scan for errors and bugs. I want to see better analysis and support in the coding process. I want to see a digital middleman that can take a novice artist's input and help realize his dreams while maybe even helping him improve in the manual craft. Like, imagine a digital workstation that you can use with no knowledge at all, and as you use it, you grow into, like, the learning, like, the process. It's almost like learning and creating as you go. You know, like, imagine you have like a drawing tablet in front of you and you're drawing, and the AI is picking up your inputs and creating something much more, not in depth, but like complex of a drawing. When, you know, and so as that's going on, like, you're learning to draw more and you're feeling it out, but like the AI is carrying you as you learn. You know, stuff like that. There is so much busy work and unnecessary baggage that we can just trim away with these tools, but everyone is focused on this all or nothing approach. The reason primarily that we're seeing this all or nothing approach is because of interested parties. Like, companies desperately want to churn out the same bullshit but with a lower outsourcing cost. They like what they're doing now with outsourcing. Imagine that, but like smaller and just like with machine learning, and that's what they want to do.
Yeah, well,
and
let's make the most with the least amount of money and
exactly
get people to buy it. Yeah,
Yep.
of course.
You already have situations where big companies are like doing statements beforehand, like, "Oh, this uses machine learning. This doesn't." Like they're trying to get ahead of like the accusations of doing so. So it's going to be murky for a while. But it's like, I swear to God, I'm not bringing this up just because of my pure biased hatred against it. Like, why are we not doing that with something like localization? I'll never know. Like, it's just these localization companies and consultation companies should be like the first ones out when AI comes up, right? When machine learning gets better, when it's easier to use for people, like those companies should just be gone, but they're not, because this isn't a game of like refining the creative process. This is a game of like you said, lowest amount of money input for the highest amount of returns. And it's just like, okay, you have people talking to you like, oh, my company's got to stay with you, you need us, and it's muddling the whole thing. Like there are people that should be already out of a job that aren't, you know. But it's just like, I don't know, like I saw that and I felt the need to, you know, just go back and rant about AI again, just because that's, you know, yeah, this guy was kind of misquoted, so to speak, but like there are people out there that what they're going to do when they see this, it's not going to be about making something, you know, this great new workflow and workstation where somebody, you know, somebody who's never, you know, worked on something before can just try and get their ideas out there, you know, to make something awesome.
Yeah, the whole topic of AI is very finicky. Like, I largely agree with you. The whole creative process really never should be meddled with, because you could tell when there's no soul in something. Like pretty easily and pretty quickly. You can tell when you might not be able to tell if it was made with AI, but you can tell that it was either rushed or it's creatively bankrupt, or they just were phoning it in, or whatever the case may be. Like the human mind is pretty good at that stuff, even if you're not even looking for it. The whole topic of AI, you would think that what you just outlined with basically using it as like a quality assurance tool would be step number one. Like, I'm sure they're going to try to get entire games made with AI eventually, but you know, you would think step number one is training the AI on your environment and on the engine that you're using, just by having it seek out and squash bugs, or do whatever. But ultimately, the tasks would be trivial for an AI, but instead, it's like you said, it's all or nothing, and it's a very slippery slope, and especially in the realm of art, because yes, I think video games are art, and depending on the game that you're making, it could be, it could elicit a very specific response in you. It could either make you feel like a badass warrior, like the Doom games do, or provoke your thoughts for like a specific moral quandary. Like, I mean, I don't know, any RPG like Mass Effect, for example. But you're able to tell when someone really put thought and heart and blood and sweat and tears into something, instead of an AI where it's very binary. So I am okay with AI being used to make games, but I think that the capacity in which it is used needs to be really limited and regulated and basically governed at all times, because if the suits can get away with making a whole game just from AI and not paying anybody, they're going to do it. And then we're the ones that get fucked. So that is the no good.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about just because of how many like hurdles there are going to be with this. Like you mentioned, like the big one where it's just like there needs to be some kind of like restraint or control when it comes to big projects or like official projects, right? Like nowadays with AI, you can go on and fuck around with any tool, and you can get like different text or different images or like, you know, low quality music and stuff like that. And it's just like if you put some more effort into it, you can kind of force these tools to get you, you know, something you're more happy with, right? But like to me, even at that low level, it's just like it's best used when it's a tool, not an end all be all. Like
Right.
my day-to-day use with AI, and this is apparently getting more common, is like to use it as like a search function. You know, you still need to double check it, much like as if you were Googling something, but it's, you know, it's something where it's just like, I've mentioned it before, where it's just better for certain things. But like if you try to do full creative endeavors, you're going to struggle a little bit, or the amount of time and effort you would put into it, you're better off just learning the trade anyway. You know, and
Yeah.
what I'm most hopeful for, not hopeful for, but what I want the most is, like I said, I like imagine a digital workstation where you sit down and it's just like, you know, it's not press a button and churn something out, but it's like you can do like a quick sketch. Even if you don't know how to draw, you do a quick sketch and the AI like understands the motions and the inputs and adds a little bit more to your very base drawing, and then boom, you have like something that you were visualizing in your mind that you can later adapt into the creative process, right? Or, you know, you have your microphone set up, you know, you don't know how to do music, but you can hum a tune, and the AI doesn't create music from it, but instead transposes what you're humming to like a score sheet, so that now it's like, oh, you have the very basis of something that just came to you in your mind, right? Or,
Yeah.
you know, just like a workstation like that and tools like that is where the focus should really be. But everybody, especially like the annoying online guys that are like, they're basically, I mentioned at one point this is like a gold rush of technology, and these guys are just trying to get in on it. So they're like, look at this movie I made in AI from top to bottom, and it's just like, it's very clearly AI. It's not, there's no direction or anything like that. It's just like those people alongside the corporate interests are going to get in the way of what should really be something amazing, you know, in multiple sectors of society. But in the we can't squander this, you know. It needs to be handled, in a way that is great for creators, you know. And I think there's just going to be a lot of pushback from, you know, the corporate side that just wants, you know, a button they can press to churn out something without hiring 600 people. Those groups of like 600 people at a time that, you know, work in sweatshops in India or whatever, that just churn out, you know, the graphics. You pay them however much money and you basically get slave labor. They're going to want to remain, you know, and the AI kind of gets in the way of that. And it's the localization things where that should be gone already. I'm going to say it again just because it really pisses me off. Localization should be dead. Because like, if I wanted to, like, let's say I was a contractor, right? Like if I was doing localization services, AI is to the point where I could feasibly do that job. Like I could do that. A lot of these people in this industry, they already relied on rudimentary machine translation tools, but AI is to the point where it understands, like, you know, they always talk, oh, you just don't get the context, or oh, Japanese and French and German and Arabic, it just can't be translated this certain way, right? Like all those excuses I ranted about that one time with localization. But the tools have gotten to the point where it understands things like context and nuance and follow through from thing to thing. So the tools are at the point now where that entire sector should just be fucking gone, because you hire two people. You hire one guy to use the tool to do it, you hire a second guy to check his work, and it's done, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole point with AI is like its potential as a tool cannot be understated enough. But I think just from the nature of this and the fact that we're in the midst of it, really, I worry that it's not going to necessarily pan out the way that it should in a timely fashion.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're way more knowledgeable on localization than I am, because the games that you play kind of require it, or it not require it, but it's commonplace there.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I really just defer to your opinion when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I
but you can the broader topic was AI, which you obviously already gave me your opinion on, so I get it. I get it.
yeah. All right. Well, I mean, let's move on. I only have two more things to really talk about. One of
Fire
them
away.
is about Helldivers too.
Mhm.
apparently there's a leak going around that the Illuminate, that newer enemy faction that was released with the Game Awards this past year. Apparently on May 13th, they're supposed to be doing some kind of an invasion event, which would mean that it would be a multi-faction mission, which I think is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that it doesn't solve the problem that I have with the game, but it's a really cool thing that they can do. Um, I I don't know. I've beaten this horse to a pulp already. I really don't want to go into it again, but I just think that the fact that they're having that it is speculated that the Illuminati are going to invade another planet, that you can fight them and the bugs, or them and the automatons. I think that's really cool. I would jump in by myself to check that out. That I feel like that'd be a good time. And if they keep on making updates like this, I mean, yeah, then they're going to eventually land into sequel territory without actually making another game and charging for it. So that's cool. The last thing that I want to talk about is, do you remember how the Killing Floor 3 beta came and went, and like everybody hated it, and then it was delayed?
Yes, I remember. I
Well,
remember
apparently, yeah, they had a press conference, not a press conference, but they were at some event. They had a panel, and it got a release date, and it's coming out on July 25th. I think it's July 25th. It's definitely in July. So that would make it a 4-month delay, I believe. And I am pleasantly surprised that it's actually coming out that soon. I thought they would have been delayed for like a fucking year, especially considering the state that the game was in. But I've seen the updated blog post that Tripwire has been putting out, as far as like what they're doing to bring the game into more in line with what people actually want out of a Killing Floor game. And they really do seem to be leaning much more into the horror genre, which should have been that way in the first place. And I don't know how they missed the mark on it with the beta build, but nothing about it was scary. All the Killing Floor 1 and 2 maps really had like a solid horror vibe to it, and it looks like they're doing that with this game, which is good. Also, they are not restricting weapons to specialists anymore, which is a great change because no one wanted that. You can play as who you want and basically use the weapon that you want on that character. And the game is coming out on the 24th of July, not the 25th, which, small detail, but yeah. I'm still looking forward to it. I still love the Killing Floor franchise. I hope that it is everything that I want it to be. I doubt that will happen, but if they can get close, then I will still be happy. But yeah, the game is coming out this summer, and I was not expecting a mere 4-month delay, but here we are.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, we weren't expecting a delay in the first place. Like we were pretty convinced that they were locked into their bad decisions when we talked about it quite a few times. So I mean, it seems like things are changing for the better. Hopefully they stick the landing.
Well, it seems like they're listening, which is a net positive. So good on them for that, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's really the last thing that I wanted to mention. If you got anything else, I'm all ears, and I am happy to give my opinions on it.
No, I got everything I needed to do out for the day.
Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, last week was a much longer episode. I guess we just had more stuff. But, well, I guess on that note, that brings episode 55 to a conclusion. So if you're still listening, thank you for sticking around to this episode of the Pregame Network podcast, and we will be back again next week, and hopefully we'll have more shit to talk about. So I am looking forward to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so on that note, thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.